working for Rutgers University. I'm working for Rutgers University School of Law-Newark and as a digital services librarian. And today I'm going to talk about multimedia tools in law schools. Here's an overview of what I'm going to talk about today. And I'm going to talk about multimedia, what is that, and text and pictures, how do you digitize them, and audio and video, how do you capture them, and also some references. And what is multimedia? There are a lot of different definitions, but this one I prefer the most. Multimedia combines contents from different forms. Can be combination of text, picture, audio, and video, etc. Because my voice is kind of gone, so I just have most of my speaks on the screen. So why we need to digitize text and images? We can share text and images with others and to use with other media format, such as video, when you can insert a text, a slide in the video clip. And you can also do a preservation on them, and also to save some physical space. And how? We got three basic scanners. From left to right is flat light scanner, planetary scanner, and the V-shaped book scanner, which uses digital camera. Why we don't use digital camera? Scanner versus digital camera. Why is that? Scanner uses a linear sensor that scans the image of text line by line, and which will later be recomposed in the computer. Whereas digital camera, they have a sensor, matrix sensor inside. One exposure captures all the information, and the digital camera has an image processor in it, and recompose it, and then transmit to the computer. And also, scanner usually kind of slow, but there are some really fast scanners, but there are some drawbacks, such as you have to cut the books into cheap materials so that you can meet the speed requirement. And scanner has a much higher resolution than regular digital cameras. Resolution in terms of DPI, dot per inch. Scanner usually is higher than 300, whereas the digital camera is 300 DPI maximum. That's usually. And there are two different types of digital cameras. One is this one, the point and shoot digital cameras. And there's another one called DSLR. I type definition on top. The DSLR, they are really expensive, and there are a lot of accessories can attach to it. Accessories such as flashes, different lenses. Whereas the point and shoot camera, they only have everything. They have everything built in. Flash, lines, they are not removable. And this one you can detach it, change different lines if you have different performance. And the shutter inside of the DSLR, they have a lifetime, which is roughly 100,000 times. The point and shoot camera, they don't have, they have a limitation on the shutter too, but it's 10 times higher than the DSLR. So what's on the market? This is a scanner. It's a flatbed scanner. On top of it is a high-speed feeder, which can take the sheet material. This one costs roughly $10,000 from Kodak, and can only scan black and white. Here is a planetary scanner, where you just laying down the books as it shows there, and the scanner rotates like this to take all the images. And it costs roughly $12,000. And this one is another example from Book Drive. It attaches two digital cameras from both sides, and there's a V-shaped holder to hold the books. it costs around $9,000, but there is a catch. Without camera, it doesn't work. And this camera lens alone is roughly $1,500 without body. The body, it totally depends on what kind of body you're looking for. It could range from $1,000 to $10,000. And this lens is roughly, I think, $2,500, because this one can zoom in a lot. And when you are doing something like doing an event photo, you want to zoom in to the speaker, you use this lens. And this one is for group photos. It has a better, wider view. And there is another one from Cortec. I don't know how to spell it. It's kind of weird to me. It has a rotating arm. It's kind of robot, which suck the book and turn the page. And this one cost, $90,000 to $180,000. It's well, not bad, but it's a BMW 7. So yeah, if you think about that. There's another one from the same company. This one has a built-in vacuum on the back, so that it can suck the map of flat object to make it perfect flight. And then there is there's a camera on top of it. Well, I don't know if you can see it, but there's a digital camera on top of it to take the photo of the object. It's $70,000. And this one is from DLS3, which doesn't use what I call the digital camera. It uses a CCD sensor. The sensor is special order from Kodak, which makes higher resolution and better DPI. But this one costs roughly $80,000. And the bed can electronically balanced. It's very sensitive. They're all expensive, so what can we do? Given the current budget situation, I can really come up with some ideas. So my idea was born in 2005 when I was studying scales Rutgers. And I proposed an independent study to see what I can do about digital camera. And then I got a grant. So I tried to build my digital scanning device. And I scanned roughly 100 books, size from this small to 14 by 11 inches. I started with the digital camera, which you saw before, with different lenses, and LEDs as well as the lighting source. And I hooked them up on a regular photo stand. And that's the final product, which I told before I depart from New York. And my work study student, they're just turning the books manually. And there is a pad to make the book flat. And I use a point and shoot digital camera there to capture the image. And I have two displays. One displays the control program, and the other one displays the final result. And this one, my scan station costs roughly $2,500, which is much less than what you saw before. And I use Canon camera because they offer the free SDK for me, so I can do my own program. Nikon does not offer controls to its point-and-shoot cameras, but it does have some control program for D series, the newest D series digital cameras. I used a program called PS Remote from Breeze System to control my camera. And the way it works is you connect the camera to the computer via a USB connection, and there is a program interface you can just press on it and take photos and transmit the final results to the computer automatically. And I also use ACDC Photo Manager to display the final result and do a final check. Software that can be used with text and images. Adobe Acrobat, I think you are really familiar with that because it's kind of standard now. Everybody uses PDFs. I used to use Deja Vu, but unfortunately I don't like it much, so I just stopped. Adobe Photoshop is kind of standard software to edit images, and I use Adobe Fang Reader to do OCR scannings. Adobe also has a PDF transformer, which can transform the PDF back to Word or text. Adobe has another software called Screenshot Reader, which allows you to take a shot of the screen and then do OCR on the image. I also use OpenOffice on Linux because it can convert documents from one format to another format. It's compatible with a lot of different document formats. OpenOffice also allows batch processing, which is really good when you are doing web programming, because kind of Unix shell, you just run a Unix command, and everything can be transformed automatically. Here I'm going to give you an example on how to do an image slideshow. I use the software called BCASTR. I don't know how to spell it. I don't know how to pronounce it, but kind of weird. And I also found another software called FLV Image Rotator to do the same thing. Here is the final result. Here. That's one of our web page that I use to display images. Because you can see this on websites such as New York Times and CNN, they do such things. And once image is being captured by digital camera or by scanners, it's all up to you. What you are going to do with that. And PDF, if you want to share the PDF file with others who doesn't have PDF reader or something like that, you can just upload them to pdfme.com, and it's free. But there's no privacy, so you should be aware of that. And Multimedia has another, now it's Adobe, has another product called the Flash paper, which costs roughly $200. It's simple to use, only one output format, which is showing here. You can do the same thing on the web page. I convert it from a PDF to an SWF, which is basically a container for the Flash. And you can also zoom in. Simple thing like that. You can do exactly the same on the web page. Now we are talking about audio and video. So first, equipment. Here we have a very nice built-in smart classroom here. But back in Newark, I don't have such things. What I have is analog devices. I can record the events on VHS tapes, which later on can be digitized using a video capture card on a computer. But that requires a lot of time, and the quality is kind of low. It's only, I think it's 300 some pixel resolutions. It's just similar as what you see on the TV. Right now, I think most of smart classrooms, they have digital components inside, which does not use the VHS tapes. Instead, you can record it in digital form. But later on, you have to transfer them on a server to be processed. We also have used digital voice recorder, such as this, because our equipment are really, really old. We have our building built in year 2000, but everything back then was analog. And the microphone didn't work, anything is just falling apart. So what we figured was I bought this digital recorder for about $100. And we place it in a pocket and then ask the professor, how it can run the neck, and everything can be picked up, including the answers from the students. And I think this one is really, really, you can get similar product for $70-some. That's cheap, but works. Solve a problem. We don't need to rebuild our AV system, from the start. And I also have this instruction on the back. So just in case the professor, they call me up and they don't know where to find the instructions. Camcorder, there are basically three kinds of different camcorders. One is mini DV, which I think we are using at the back row there. And the other one is hard drive based, which I have it here, like this. Oops. And this one has, the only difference between these two is just the media that stores the recordings. There's another type device use only flash memory chips, such as the Flip. I don't know if you ever heard about the Flip. The reason why Flip is so popular is because it's really cheap and everybody can capture data. There's no configuration on Flip. You can just simple configurations. You don't need to worry about the video resolution or things like that. The final product, the final recording can be easily uploaded to a website, such as YouTube or something like that. But the hardware ones, they have a much bigger storage. You don't need to change the tapes as mini DV does. And also mini DV camcorders, they record everything in digital, but it's in a linear format. In other words, if you want to transfer the recording out from mini DV recorder, you have to do a 1-to-1 ratio, conversion. You connect it to a computer and you control the mini DV from the computer and capture the recording back. Whereas the HD camcorders, they record everything in standard definition or high definition, which I'm going to talk about more. And this one doesn't have a fireware connection. It's from Sony. It doesn't have a fireware connection, which I found quite odd, because fireware allows you to connect the computer with the camcorder so that you can control the camcorder on your computer, but you have to have a special software installed. I think there is a software from Adobe called On Location. You can use that to do recordings. So you don't need to. You can skip the mini DV tape. You don't need to have the mini DV tape inside camcorder. Instead, you recording everything on computer. But the downside is that you have to have the computer with the mini DV camcorder, and you have to have some people who get trained and sitting there to control the mini DV. And this one has a USB port, just for simple dump. Transfer the file from this thing out. Oh, this one has two formats. One is if you record in standard definition, this one records in MPEG format, which is quite standard. You can play using almost any standard player. And it also records the high definition video, which is in AVCHD format. It's kind of special, but it's kind of special codec, but it's more and more popular, and a lot of companies such as Adobe, they're trying to be compatible with the AVCHD format. I'm going to talk about more later on. And for output, there's AV connection, which you see on the TV set. It's kind of standard RCA connectors, and the new ones has the HDMI connector. I heard that HDMI can control the camcorder, but I didn't find any software that can control the camcorder. But the HDMI port has the compatibility to allow you to control, just like what we're going to do with the fireware. And now the audio formats. There are a lot of formats, it's just like a war and Zoom. But the most standard ones are the WAV format. It's I think the National Archive, they use WAV format as the standard to archive their recordings, if I remember right. But there's a drawback for the WAV format. It's on the maximum capacity is, the biggest file size it allows is 4 giga, because it's recorded in 32 bits. If you convert it, the biggest is 4 giga. And MP3 is really popular now, iPod, something like that. Video formats, which I'm going to talk more later on. But there, I listed most popular ones. Windows Media Player, because they have a lot of, they hold a really big pie on the operating system market. So the Windows Media Player can reach a lot of families, and they don't need to install nothing. And Real Player is kind of losing market now. I see that fewer and fewer websites using Real Player. Apple QuickTime is just similar like the Real Player, is just losing its roots. And now the really popular ones is Adobe Flash Video, which is FLV. YouTube and Hulu, they use FLV as their for their video clips. When you upload one video clip to the website, they have a converter, which I'm going to talk about more later, to do the automatic converting. So you don't need to convert your video clip into FLV on your machine. Instead, they do it for you. Untitled is, as I said, it's really the standard ones, but it's compressed. MP4 is better compressed, has a bigger resolution, and is kind of popular now, more and more popular. And audio sample rates. CD, I just use the CD sample rates as an example. CD has 44.1 kilohertz and 16 bits, which means 44,100 samples per second and 16 bits per sample. But you have to divide it by 2 because that's for stereo. And after you compress the wave into some format like MP4, MP3, that's what the bit rate kicks in. It's after you compress it, the higher the bit rate, the higher the quality, and vice versa. Usually we use 128 kilobits per second for CD quality recordings. You can use much higher, such as 256 kilobits for better quality, but I really doubt there's anyone can hear the difference. And video resolution. It's measured watts by hertz. So from the top to bottom, it's going higher and higher. We used to use, right now we are using 300 and 300 by 200 as for our NGBeagle library, which contains the Supreme Court, the New Jersey Supreme Court oral argument archive. We use that as our low bandwidth for low bandwidth video recordings. And YouTube use VGA standard, which is 600 by 400, but it kind of push into a higher definition, which is 720p. You can see if you log into the YouTube, there is a button called HD on the player. You can click on it, and it's kind of higher resolution. But this one records in the so-called true HD is 1080p. But the higher the resolution, the bigger the file size, and the more time you need to process it. So you don't need to transfer the recording from mini DV, but you do need to convert between different formats. And I'm going to focus on Flash because Flash is really popular now. Macromedia started the Flash in 1996, but now it's Adobe's baby, unfortunately. There are thousands of websites using Flash technology, such as YouTube, which we'll talk about, New York Times, Fox. I'm kind of follow the leader on the in the industrial field, so, and I can also prove its popularity. It's so popular that we use it on our San Antonio website. That's a screen capture. So, and professors, they like it, even though they are not tech savvy, but they don't have any problem with the Flash player. Whereas they had a lot of problem, with New Jersey Supreme Court oral argument, which was recorded in Windows Media format. So we have to send people there to help them out. But this time we don't have any calls from them. They really like it. And talk about the popularity of Flash. According to Adobe, Flash can reach 99% internet viewers. Means 99% of internet viewers can play Flash content, such as video or games even. In our case, we have 100% user installed Flash player. Who visits our website, they all have some sort of Flash player in their system. And there are some terms. SWF is the container for the Flash. Flash video, which can be called within the SWF. And WMA is the audio format for Windows Media Player. WMV is the Windows Media Video. And the LAMP. I think you guys are familiar with that. So here's how the Flash works. You cannot push everything into the Flash player SWF container. This container can be distributed to desktop and web page, where the end user can view the content. And when you're talking about video on the website, you have to think about two ways to do that. One is to do a progressive download, and otherwise to do a streaming download. Streaming has a better protection, but sometimes you got problems with users who has firewall protection. Progressive allows you to have better management on content, because if you have a lot of content from past, you cannot streaming them. But here you can just for progressive download, you can just use them directly, and you don't need to worry about the firewall, because it's used the standard web page port. And in my case, I built the video repository by myself, using some tools that I'm going to talk about later. And by far, we generated 300 hours of audio recordings, and we use progressive download, and roughly 100 subtitles for the video content. And we also use Flash-based documents to host our future website, such as the New Jersey Digital Legal Library. We are going to convert our documents into Flash format. And we are also using the Flash for some courseware. And if you want the people to view the video, you have to convert it into a FLV format, and then embed the code into a web page, so that the web page can be loaded with the player inside. And if you have Flash installed, you don't need to worry about different operating systems. It can be viewed across all operating systems, as long as the Flash player is installed on that particular system. And that's an example of our video repository. You have to log in first, and then you got a list of videos available. And that's when after you click on a title, we got a player embedded in a website, and then it plays. That's a simple way to work. And we also use, I talked about this last year in my session. We also use so-called twisted podcast, because the goal for podcasting is for everybody to download it and synchronize it, but we do it differently. We like the Flash player so much, and we don't like everybody to sneak into our system to view it. So we just similar like what we did with the video. We have login. You have a login, and then you can see the title. And there is a Flash player inside where you can click on and play the audio. And we use a web-based converter, which literally built by myself using some open source software. We designed some simple pages to upload. And before any event is arranged, you have to register the event on our website so that we know when and where to deliver the equipment. The equipment like this. We just send out one guy to deliver it, and later on, after the event is finished, we just pick it up and connect it to the computer. You fill in the form, and there is a confirm.
Question.
Sure.
Okay, so when you started, you said you had in your podiums VHS technology
Uh-huh.
for, I'm assuming, boundary mics for your walls.
We-
Get the audio.
We don't have that. The audio is in a tape. We'll be recording in a
But how
tape
do you get
recorder
that in? Where is that audio supposed to come from?
from here.
No, for your VHS.
For my VHS, no, I use this. I use the similar like what they have set up there. We skip the VHS tapes. We don't use the built-in system.
So, okay, so you, I guess my question is, you could, depending on how your system is set up, you could leverage that system and save yourselves a lot of running around if all you're going to do is just pull the audio track. I mean, we started off very much like you did with a podium system and VHS. About 5 years ago, we added Dell computers and then wrote some scripts so that now everything is using Taskmaster in Windows. We can schedule events and tape them using our analog equipment and ending up with a WMV file, which we then batch convert to Flash. I was wondering,
I don't think our system has that compatibility.
if it was built to record onto VHS, then there must be a sound source. We
There
use
is.
boundary
Just
mics.
camera mic. Just whatever on the camera.
This one has a built-in mic.
Mhm.
I think it's quite good. Works. I don't need to have a separate microphone because back home I have a shotgun microphone on top of the camcorder. A kind of directional microphone. It records only to one direction, so I don't need to worry about the noise from other side. But the downside is every time there is someone asks questions, I have to turn the camera, to get audio. But anyhow, that's if you want to get your event recorded, you have to request it online. That's in our case, and you will receive a confirmation through the email. At the day designed, we just there is a list for the technicians to drop off equipment. And after the event is finished, we just pick up the recorder and convert everything. Here is an interface where you can upload the recording to the server, and the server does the converting. After the conversion is finished, there is an email sent to the faculty, and the faculty can post it on the Blackboard. But we do that. Right now we only do podcast for events that has significance, so that we want to archive it. For regular lectures, we don't do that. We just give the recorder to the IT guy, and they are going to give that to the faculty, and the faculty record it and they post it on the Blackboard website. But you don't have control on that, because unlike the Flash, most of the law school students, they don't know how to download it. Whereas MP3 file on the Blackboard, you can easily download it, and after you don't have any control on that. So, and also for the archive purpose, we can specify who is qualified to view this content, and that's you saw that before. Now I'm going to talk about some tools to dealing with this. Authoring tools. You like the Flash, you want to do it by yourself. How? Encoders. I just talked about you have to convert different formats. And players. That's the final, what the end user will use. And the server software, what you're going to do. I mean, how can you set it up? Authoring tools, there are two major authoring tools for Flash. One is the Adobe Flash. Right now the current version is CS4 and is mainly designed for illustrators or designers who are really good at graphic. And there is another one called the Flash Builder. The newest version is 3. It's more targeted on developers, on programmers. And I think you have better control in the Flash Builder because you can dig into the real source code. And there is an interface, as you can see, is really designed for graphic, for illustrators. And there's programmer standard interface. Encoder, we have the one I used on my server is called FFmpeg. It's great, and it can convert video and audio. Because just like I said, for the podcast, for the audio podcast, we record. This one takes WMA file. I upload it and to the server will convert it to MP3 file, which is compatible with the Flash. And for the video recording, we don't upload it, it's just too big to upload. So instead, we just connect it to the server and dump everything into a directory on the server, and the server will do the converting automatically. And you can also use Adobe Flash CS4 encoder, which comes free with the Adobe CS suite. And I think a lot of people use Super, which is also another AV converting tool. I used that before, but I don't like the performance, so I just keep it. I use FFmpeg now. And I recently found one software called Format Factory, and this one is pretty good because it's similar like FFmpeg. It uses FFmpeg as the backbone, actually. Offers a user interface on top of the FFmpeg, so you don't need to deal with the command lines. And the second to the last is TMPG ENC, which is a Japanese software, and that one I think is the only software that I found can deal with AVCHD format, unfortunately. I used it and I liked it. And I use GoldWave for some local, for some audio converting on local machines. Format Factory also has a DVD wrapper, which some of our events are on DVD only media, so we just wrap it off and post it online, which we found was quite useful. I'm not sure if this one works with protected DVDs. You can try it. Don't say that I told you. And players, there are 3 different players that can play the Flash. Adobe Media Player, when you install it, it installs Adobe Flash Player automatically. So you can play the Flash content on the website. But mainly the Adobe Media Player is focused on the local user. You can play FLV files, which you grabbed online from YouTube or some other website. And I think Adobe is trying to push the Adobe Media Player to play TV contents, a kind of competition between Hulu.com and the Adobe Media Player. Media Player Classic is the one that I like the most. Unfortunately, all those things has to be installed. Adobe Media Player and Media Player Classic, they have to be installed on the local machine. And whereas GWFE Media Player is embedded in the website, on the web page, so you don't need to download it, as long as you have the Flash player installed on your machine. There is an interface of the Classic, and there's an interface of the FLV. If I remember right, I think FLV YouTube used GWFLV media player when they started. I don't know if they're using it now, but I'm pretty much sure when they started they used the GW. And just like I said, I configured my server to do the converting. And the one that I used is Ubuntu, because it's free and it's lamp ready. So I don't need to worry about nothing for configuring the database, configuring the server. I don't need to worry about it. The only thing I need to worry about is patch it up and set up my firewall. And you can also try Flash Media Server. It has built-in loading balance, fancy features, but it's just really, really expensive, which I cannot afford. And it requires a better hardware to handle it. And the one I used to do streaming media is called Red 5, and it's free, and it's FLV MP3 compatible. And I also use software to do some screencast for courseware and for some basic instructions. I do some. It's just the screencast is just nothing but a bunch of different screen captures composed together. And you can use the one I like the most is the Adobe Captivate, because you can set up logic inside. So it can ask you a question, and based on users' answers, you can give it right or wrong indicator, something like that. Just I use it. And things to be aware of is only Flash Player version 7 and above is compatible with video content. Before that, if you have Flash Player 6 installed, you cannot see any video content. And it really don't. Flash audio and video is not a standard format for archive, so you should never ever keep your FLV as the single resource. I keep both. I keep the original recording and I keep the FLV on the website. FLV Flash video is downloadable. There is, I think, the most popular Flash video downloader is called Download Helper, which is add-on to Firefox. It can grab the YouTube.com's video. So if you don't configure right, Flash video will be really big. Depends on the factors such as sound rate and the video quality. And there's some references. The video part is mainly based on my article, which I talked about last year, I think, here. Any questions? No? That's it.